Right, welcome back. I've now found out why there was a massive gap there. I've now found out why that happened. When you put the two halves together of the fuselage, you've also got to line this panel underneath there to meet the bottom part of the fuselage. So that's another alignment issue you're going to have when you put all this, when I did the tape and I went all the way around, you've got to align that as well. That's why that happened. I didn't align it right. So what I did, I got my snap knife underneath there, twisted it so that panel would come out. I got my nippers and cut it off. You can see the line there, and that's the square. Putting that little square panel to one side, I then got my snap knife again, got it underneath and twisted it and pushed it up, and eventually that snapped into place to meet the bottom half of the fuselage. And as you can see by the glue marks, I've managed to get that into place. The only problem is when I went to glue this square panel back in, it wouldn't fit. So what I've had to do is I've had to sand it down a little bit, test fit it. It didn't fit again, so I had to sand down a bit more, keep test fitting it, and then you sand it down a little bit at a time until it goes right in. And eventually it slipped into place, but you've got to be careful that that little square panel doesn't fall into the inside of the main fuselage where it's all empty, because if it does, you'll never get it out. So I just ran the glue around the edges there, much like there, and then just slip that panel back into place and just let that dry. And it does look a hell of a lot better now all that's met. Right, same on the other side, but on this side it wasn't as bad. So again, getting it underneath, twisting it, cutting it off, but this side was a bit more stiffer. So when I got that underneath, I had to really move it up, and eventually it snapped into place. You can see the glue marks. And again, I had to sand that square down. So sand it a little bit, test fit it, sand it a bit more until it goes in. And you can see by the glue marks, that's all done. So it looks a hell of a lot better. Right, so once that was done, I then glued this part into place. If you remember from the previous update where that wouldn't align properly, it's not supposed to, because that panel actually completes there. So you don't need to actually get the clamp and realign it. So what I had to do is I had to snap that back out and then push it back in once I got this part in. And then once this part is in, that completes the wall there on the inside of the nose. So that's that done. Once that was dry, I then got the nose cone. I had to sand down a bit around the edges of the main body part of the nose here and all the way around. I then ran some glue round, and then just lined the nose cone up to where it's supposed to be the best I can, and then just got 4 pieces of tape, one on the top, one on the underneath, and 2 on it, one on each side. And that doesn't look too bad, to be honest. And then underneath, you can see I've got to do a bit of sanding there and around there. But generally that's not looking too bad. And then the top part here with that little roof where I had to cut it out and re-put it back in, I've now filled that in and sanded that down, and that doesn't look too bad either. So all the way around where I glued the top half to the bottom half, I've got a lot of sanding to do. But I'm really happy that I've managed to get that back into place. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment. Right, welcome back. I've done some filling on the side panels, especially where I'd cut them out. Just using my normal household filler. And I've sanded this down. It's not looking too bad. You can see where the line is. I've also done a bit of filling there to try and equal that out, because if you remember there's a step. I've tried to sand it, and it wouldn't work, so what I've done is I've just put some household filler to make like a little ramp to compensate for that lip. So it's not looking too bad on this side. Turning the Tomcat round, I've done the same on this side as well. You can just about make out, just lower that a bit more. There we go. you can just make out where the gap is when I cut that square out like on the other side. So again, with some normal household filler, I've sanded that down. You got that little step there, I've put some filler in there to try and make a ramp to try and equal it out, and this bit towards the nose cone. Looking on some photos of the F-14 with Tom Cruise in the foreground, I've noticed there are some raised panel lines and like little panels that have been like riveted into place. So we'll see how this looks once I've got the primer down, because I'm going to have to re-primer, because I've done all the sanding around the edges as well, and the wings and, you know, the various bits and bobs around the edges. So I've just got to mask off this cockpit now and then spray the primer. But it's looking a hell of a lot better than it did before. Right, welcome back. On the previous update, if you remember, I was doing all the filling where I've got my snap knife and got the two panels to meet together, where I'd cut out the square, and you could see it's looking a hell of a lot better compared to the way it did before. So I've just primed over where I've filled. Them lines are not looking too bad, they look fairly equal. I've also resprayed around where I'd sanded, because I masked off the cockpit with some newspaper and some masking tape. On this side, so again, it's looking a hell of a lot better than it was. It's looking really, really nice. Not bad at all. And around the edges there and underneath, it's not looking too bad. Turn that round again so you can have a look at the underneath of there. It's looking really, really nice. So I'm really well chuffed that I managed to, like I said, get them panels into place with my snap knife. So I'm just going to pause it a sec. Right, putting the Tomcat on my tail upside down. I've also done the underneath. Now, I'm not going to display this on its landing gear. I'm going to be displaying this in flight mode, because I'm going to be hanging this from my ceiling eventually, along with the other two Top Gun planes that I bought. So on the plans, it tells you to have the landing gear doors. Where's that one? Where's all the landing gear doors? There it is. You've got two parts of the landing gear doors. You've got this big piece here and the little rectangular piece, and a third piece there. So I cut those two off and just kept the little rectangular piece and the square piece, and just matched them up both sides. I put a bit of foam inside there to give them something to glue onto, and then I just glued them in and just let the glue set. I had to do a bit of filling around the edges and down the middle slightly. You've also got this little panel here that's actually on the back of the landing gear, as it says in step 21. That's the little panel there, so I cut that off the completed landing gear, that section, and I glued that into place, and then just put a bit of filler there and there. And then with the landing gear on underneath of the wings, both sides, you've got three panels. You've got this panel here, that little like triangular rectangular piece there, and this piece here. It ain't 100% perfect, but they're not too bad. So I just cut them off the sprue, glued them directly onto here, bare plastic. Just did a bit of filling after the glue dried, and then just primed that on the underneath, like this, on the outside. It's a bit more better this side. So you got 1, 2, 3 panels there. Again, glued them in bare plastic, and let the glue dry and just a bit of filling, and then primer on top of that. I had to get a bit of card to protect the cockpit, so it wouldn't like spray underneath when I was doing these. But I think that looks really, really nice, both sides there, and like I said, on the front there. Now turning the camera around. Right, so turning the camera around, this is going to be the last update on the Tomcat for a while. because the next part of construction I'm actually missing some parts. The guy I bought it off, he did say the decals were missing, which I knew anyway. He said to the best of his knowledge all the parts are in that bag, and it was sold as seen. So with the molds being the same for the new Top Gun release, and I've downloaded the instructions off the Revell website for the new Tomcat, the Top Gun one I should say. All the part numbers are still the same. I've put a request in. The UK distributor of Revell model kits say they haven't got any spare parts for this kit, so they've referred it back to Revell Germany. Revell Germany have been in contact since and said it could take anything up to 6 weeks to process my request, because I asked for a quote for these parts that I'm missing. But it could take anything up to 6 weeks on top of that for the postage. So with the way things are in Europe at the moment, you know, with Brexit, because I live in the UK, and the tragic circumstances going on in Ukraine, I don't know what the export and import from Germany are going to be like. So it could be a couple of months before I even get these new parts. So it's goodbye for now for the Tomcat, and I'm going to take a little hiatus until I get these new parts. So please bear with me.